Welcome to the Fit Dad Club podcast. My name's Travis Jones and I'm here with Jason Barrett. How you doing today, Jace?
Good. Just smashed a nice upper body workout, so I'm ready.
Love it, mate. Love it. Today we are talking everything mindset. And I think, how to develop a bulletproof mindset is the most crucial factor when it comes to trying to achieve the body you want. It's not the best program. It's not the best macro split. It's having a mindset that allows you to keep going, to do what you said you're going to do, to overcome the negative words and, talking that goes inside your head and moving away from those negative choices, which obviously get negative outcomes. The reality is that we simply just want to have a mindset that allows us to do what we said we're going to do, whether we feel like it or not. And for me, that's what today's podcast is all about. So Jace, as a question I wanted to ask you, why do you think someone actually embarks on a weight loss or a body transformation journey?
A lot of people, they get it in their head that they should or they have to lose weight. And I mean, the reasons behind that are numerous, but usually it's a moment where you look in the mirror and you're like, fuck, I'm not happy with this anymore. That's what usually gets most people up. You take your shirt off, you see yourself in the reflection in the mirror and you're like, is that one of those funhouse mirrors from the circus? No. Oh shit. I've got to do something about this. It's a wake up moment or an aha moment where they just go, yeah, I'm doing it. Those are the people that do it that generally tend to be successful. There are people that constantly go through life thinking that, I should go on some kind of weight loss. I guess I should kind of lose weight. And they feel obliged to do it. Those are the people that kind of start and stop and start and stop and start and stop. So if you're in that camp, it's because you haven't really had that wake up moment, or you haven't got that powerful why. You haven't got that really core reason why you're doing it, which we talked about back in episode 1, when it comes to sticking to your goals and really sort of focusing on that. But you have to have the awareness of, I don't want to be where I'm at anymore. That's step number 1. But then you also have to have an idea of where you actually want to be, because you could change by 1% and you're like, oh, well, I'm not where I was anymore. So I'm not feeling the pain of feeling fat because I'm taking this action, but you're also not in the place you want to be yet. You're not at the goal. So you've got to have that clear picture in mind, because if you don't, then you don't know when you've achieved it.
Mate, I completely agree. I think there's a moment where someone looks in the mirror or something like that happens and it's like, you know what? I'm not my best self. And they don't have those words, I'm not my best self. They're like, I'm a fat shit right now and I have no energy. And what the hell happened? The last decade completely eroded my self-confidence. Like, it's more something like that. But at the end of the day, it's just, I'm not my best self right now. And they know they can be better, or they want to be better at least. Now, why do you think someone gives up on a weight loss journey is my second question.
I think they have expectations that are a little bit too high for the results that they're getting. That tends to be a big one. They expect things to move a lot quicker and for things to be a lot easier than they are. They don't embrace the journey. They get way down with all these expectations, again, of the way that food should be. A lot of the guys I've spoken to lately are like, oh, but it's really bland and I have to eat like this and I have to eat chicken breast, broccoli and rice. Otherwise I'm not going to do it. And they have all these negative weight associated, and I've got to run for, 40 kilometers a day. They've got all this negative weight associated to all the actions they think they have to take. And it already feels like a chore before they even start. And it already feels too hard. So they have their expectations around the results they're going to get, or they have an expectation around what the method has to be. And then they start putting negativity on the method before they've even started. And they're already kind of starting with one foot, like behind the 8 ball. And they're not prepared to embrace choosing the right hard, right? It's going to be hard either way, but choosing the hard of the workout and of the meal that's a little bit less convenient and a little bit, not as fatty, gooey, crunchy, yummy, whatever else you love, and a little bit more clean and a little bit more whole. And that's going to lead you towards your goals. They don't embrace the right hard, and it gets too hard and then they just go, fuck it, I give up. It's too much for me. I'm not destined for this. I'm just going to embrace it. And I'm going to make YouTube videos eating 12 pizzas.
Right. I think I think 100%, right? Like, I think people give up because one, there's obviously a quick fix mentality. So that's why all the diet books and the fads and the man shakes and everything get sold, right? So I need to do something about this now. I want the quickest, fastest possible fix. But, the quickest fix is is a Band-Aid to literally like a life-threatening injury. It might get you a little bit, but then all of a sudden you'd end up bleeding out. So, we need to understand, we can't have a quick fix, right? Yeah, we can get you some fast results. And you want to be losing 1% of body weight loss per week, which is 100 kilos, you're losing a kilo a week, 4 kilos a month, 16 kilos in 16 to 20 weeks. Like that's realistic. But I think there's this high expectation of what should happen. And then there's also a inability to want to learn about education. They go through a quick fix and it's like, I can't stay on this keto thing forever. So they're picking a quick fix diet that doesn't allow them to still consume some of the foods they love. And also they have a preconceived idea, like you said, which is, I have to train for an hour a day or 2 hours a day. I have to run on my ass off or whatever it is. So the education isn't there. So they don't have the education to understand I can have beers, I can have burgers, I can have pizzas, I have to feed into my calories. I don't have to train. Really, if you want to train 3 times a week, you'll still get the results. If you want to train 4 times a week, you'll get the results, right? Like I think it's making sure that they have the right program. And then if someone does have the right program, I think they give up. I think one of the biggest things is they find it too hard, right? I honestly think they do. And it's like they come into it, the first thing, why does someone want to embark on a weight loss journey? I want to be the best version of me. I want to change my life. Then they start trying to do that and they're like, oh, I want to be the best me, but I don't want to change anything I'm doing. I still want to have the same old habits. It's like, no, well, the biggest thing is, it's like, no, you need to temporary changes in the habits give you temporary solutions. The actual understanding that if you want to be the healthiest version of you, all the habits and everything that got you to this point in life were not the best. Like if you're 20, 30, 10, 20, 40 kilos overweight, your current habits and systems are not good for you. And they're giving you a trajectory of being an unhealthy version of yourself. So we need to discard our current habits and adopt new ones, not temporarily, but for the rest of our life. And I think that's the biggest thing. And yes, change is hard at the start. Anything is hard at the start. But if we can embrace the challenges at the start and we can learn the skills at the start, then when you're 16 weeks, 20 weeks, 12 months into it, it isn't hard anymore. It just is. And I think people have to overcome the hurdle of hard to then understand that it just is. Then they'll get that change for the rest of their life. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like they don't believe or they don't, understand the sacrifices they're going to have to pay to change their life. And it's like, when I'm saying that, it sounds pretty, daunting, but yeah, you will have to pay some sacrifice. You can't get blind every weekend with your mates. You can't have a 6-pack or, of beer every single night. You can't eat, Uber Eats, 7 nights a week and whatever you want to eat. It's like, there's going to be sacrifices. Okay. But you can either sacrifice that or you can sacrifice being the best version of you. Either is a sacrifice. You just choose your sacrifice. You choose your heart, right? As you said. I think the biggest thing we have to understand is what I've seen, I've coached, thousands and thousands of people over the last couple of decades. And with the dads, literally, I would say at least 500 dads with the constraints that they have. And the people who win and the people that don't win, because it's just winning and not winning, right? It's understanding the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. And the people who win have a growth-based mindset. And, looking at this, like if there's 2 different mindset styles or systems, Carol Dweck wrote a book called Mindset. She talks about fixed and a growth mindset. And there's 2 different beliefs when it comes to learning new skills, because that's all it is. We're learning new skills and deploying new skills and habits into our life. Now, a fixed-based mindset person generally never gets the results they're after. And so if we look at it, the traits of a fixed-based mindset person, it's like they think that talents or skills or traits are fixed. I'm big boned. I have a slow metabolism, right? Like literally, I've heard this all the time.
Big boned in a long time.
Yeah, but hey, people say that. I have a slow metabolism. I have a slow metabolism. People say that all the time. I can't run. I don't like the gym. I can't use this app. I'm too old. All right. So with this, they tend to avoid challenges, right? And whether it be a risk of fear or failure, but they avoid challenges, and that's what they do. And they're also discouraged by setbacks and feedback. They view feedback as criticism. Okay. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, no, like a setback is a learning lesson. Feedback isn't criticism. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for reflection. They're also, a lot of the time, they seek validation. They want to prove their intelligence, especially with a coach, right? They're like, no, I already know like all this education. I know what I should be doing. And they trying to get validation, and they're trying to pump up their ego rather than having humility and focusing on growth. So they're seeking this validation, that they already know what they're doing. But if they already knew what they were doing, they wouldn't be 20 kilos overweight. Now, so that's a fixed base mindset. And if I'm talking right now and you're like, oh, I do a couple of those things, I was like, okay, well, that's awareness. Now we can change, because awareness precedes change. Like when we look at this, a growth-based mindset person, it's like they understand that talents and abilities can be developed, and they get developed through dedication and hard work. Okay, that's it. They embrace challenges. They see failure as a growth lesson. Okay, they understand that they fall on their face, they get back up, they learn something, and they keep moving forward. They're motivated by feedback. They're motivated by criticism, because they understand that every chance to get feedback is a chance to become better. And also they focus on the process of learning rather than the process of validation. They are humble. They understand that you might have something that I can also put in my tool belt that I can learn from now. So I want you to just think, before you embark on a journey right now and you're trying to read a book or get a coach or deploy a skill, it's like, are you being a fixed mindset person? Or are you being growth mindset? If you got your blinkers on and everything this person's trying to help you with, or this book's trying to teach you, or this blog or this video, it's like, nah, blinkers on, can't learn anything. It's like, no, just listen to this podcast. If you're thinking that, you're a fixed base mindset. Listen to this podcast, open up the blinkers. You might learn something. Okay. And if not, you can teach me something and send me a message. But, be a growth man. You can seek that validation you're going for. But with that, to succeed, we first must understand and identify, do we have some fixed traits, and do we need to shift them into a growth-based mindset?
I think I've definitely partaken in that before, especially with in work. As a big one for me in the past has been whenever I've tried to do things so well that whenever I've end up being quote unquote criticized or given feedback, taken it way too personally. And it's like, we're not all perfect. We're all going to have those moments, but what I like to do and what I recommend you do is you just take that 5 minutes, be like, hang on, why did I react so personally to that? Oh, is it because I'm actually deep down, it's not about me. It's about, I don't want to let that person down, or I don't want to fail that person. I don't want to, to hurt them in some way. And by doing that, I feel like I've done that. All right. Oh, cool. I've got that awareness. We talked about awareness heaps last week in the habits podcast. So if you haven't listened to that one, make sure you do. But that pausing, that mental awareness of, hang on, is this actually the way it is? As Trav said, he already used a growth mindset for a lot of people, like looking in the mirror and saying, and he pushed it on you, looking in the mirror saying, I'm not the best version of myself right now. Right. That's more of a growth mindset, because you're ascribing a time to it and you're really treating it as what it really is, as opposed to, I'm a fat person. Right. That's a very much an identity thing. And a lot of people struggle to shed that identity when they go through this process. They'll lose all this weight and they'll still look in the mirror and see a fat person, because they've got this fixed mindset around who they are. And they'll use words like, I am, I can't, I couldn't, I won't, these big sweeping broad brushstroke generalizations, where my favorite thing to do is to get deep into the language of people and say, no, how specifically, let's say, oh, I can't use the app. Well, what specifically in the app are you struggling with? Oh, I can't do these two things. All right. So the rest of it you're good with. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's not I can't use the app. It's I'm having trouble finding these specific foods, or I can't do this. I can't do this the training session. It's too much for me. All right. Well, it's just actually the push-ups that you're struggling with because it's using body weight at the moment. The rest of it's all good. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess so. So the more you can niche down and get clear on, well, what specifically are the things you're struggling with? And this is hard and it's confronting because it forces you to be real with yourself, and it forces you to say, well, no, hang on, I can't just blow the whole thing off. I can't be all or nothing in this. I can't just say, oh, one thing doesn't work, so it all doesn't work. It's like, no, if you can't do everything, like right now, I can't squat and deadlift very well. My lower back is a little bit rough. My hips are weird. Even the physio said, yeah, mate, you got some weird hips, right? They don't go down right. So I'm not squatting and deadlifting. For a while, I thought that was the only thing I could do to like grow, get big, strong, get big, squat big, all that kind of stuff. But even though those aren't things that I'm able to do right now, it doesn't mean that I can't do things like leg press or single leg stuff. It's like, is it as sexy as doing these big lifts? Well, no, but it doesn't mean I have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And too many people do that if they have a shitty meal or they can't do a workout to the effectiveness that they would like to. Shit, doing 10 sets of push-ups on your knees at home, or even using like a bench to do it and doing those until close to failure, that's going to get you something. That's going to move something. That's going to move the needle along in some capacity. But too many people require, as Trav was saying before, the perfect program. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. The frozen vegetables, the frozen meal that you eat is infinitely better than the organic, grass-fed, perfectly macro-balanced, chef-prepared, all the best ingredients than that meal that you never eat because it takes too fucking long to prepare. So
Mate,
if you can do something, that's going to be infinitely better than the nothing that you say you're going to do over and over again.
Dude, 100%. I think like the criticism, like we fall into fixed-based mindset in different areas of our life. So, for me, with feedback from Liv, like my wife, I see that as criticism sometimes, and I get defensive. When really, and again, like you said, if you break down why you get defensive, you're getting defensive because you don't want to let that person down, because the person that you said you want to be the best version of you for the rest of your life, and you want to make them happy. So then when I see criticism as I'm not making you happy, it's like, no, it's like, all you have to do is like step back, don't get defensive and cause an argument, because now I'm, stepping up to the, fight me phase, not physically, mentally. And because we all know who'd win that fight, Live 100% of the
Liv,
time. So, but like really, it's like, no, she's just trying to give me feedback so I can be better for her. And I can do whatever task it is, or have a communication better for her. So I can't take that personally, because someone can't make you feel something. You have to let them. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you're putting meaning onto that conversation, or you're giving it meaning. They aren't giving it meaning. The next thing I do want to talk about is, again, so that was one paradigm shift, right? A fixed-based mindset or a growth mindset. We need to have that paradigm shift into a growth mindset. Now, the next one is from a victim mindset into a victor mindset. So it's another paradigm shift. And I think these two paradigm shifts are the biggest two shifts we need to then develop everything else we're going to talk about today. So if we look at it, the second lesson is there is two people. We all have like the two voices on our shoulders, okay? And the one you listen to the most wins. So at the moment, if you're 20, 30 kilos overweight, you're probably listening to the victim version of you, or like a little bit more than the victor or the best version of you. Now, and if you're constantly, falling prey to not doing what you said you're going to do, you're listening to that victim. Okay, so we're all prone to fall into the victim mindset from time to time. But if we're conscious about when we fall into it, again, awareness precedes change, and we can own a situation, we can switch into the victor version of ourselves. So if we look at it again, the traits under a victim-based mindset, they blame, they complain, they justify, they essentially make excuses. And literally, you'll try and help this person, and they'll have a problem for every solution. Okay. And I think that's the understanding. It's like, so you're like, okay, well, I can't eat my dinner tonight because my wife makes dinner and she doesn't make healthy things. Like, literally, these are the conversations I have with some of the clients. It's like, okay, well, how about me, you and your wife get on the call and ask her, have a conversation with her about, are you and your health and a priority? And, can we identify some meals that are great for the family? Or if not, can we get you some prepackaged meals? You chuck it in the microwave, you eat with your family, but you can do it that way. There's always going to be solutions. Some might not be perfect, but there's a solution. Or we justify, I've had a hard week at work. I'm just going to have some beers with the boys because I need to have them. Or, so they justify poor behaviors. Oh, I didn't sleep very well last night. I'm not going to go to the gym. They'll make excuses of, I couldn't track this, or, anything you help them with, they'll find the problem with how you're trying to help them. And that is the victim.
You're a dad. You're never going to have a good night's sleep. You're not going to have a good night's sleep for like 15 years. So
yeah,
you can't use that as an excuse.
Mate, then you're still not sleeping well because you're worried about them, right? So the victim mindset, they take ownership, they take responsibility, and they have accountability. Okay. So this is the biggest thing. You need to be a victor. Step one, ownership. My current choices that have led me to who I am today, okay, were all on me. I made me. All the health and all of the unhealth that I currently have, that's on me. Until you own your situation, you will never move forward. Oh, I put on weight because of the kids. You didn't put on weight because of the kids. You weren't sitting there and your kids were not stuffing chocolate down your throat and telling you that you can't train. Like, they just didn't. They might have made you tired. There might have been different environmental factors in your house, but no one force-fed you food to gain 20 kilos. Like, it just didn't happen. Okay, so we can't blame kids. We can't blame that, work's hectic, right? Like, we can't do this, guys. Like, there's someone out there just like you, but they're getting the work done, getting the results that they want. The difference is, but they're just following through. Now, I know that some of us have different constraints. I understand that. Now, I also am not someone who was fit every single day of my life. I was fit, I was fat, and I am fit. And I think when I look at that, I was 25 kilos, I was 115 kilos, right? At one stage, I was going through stuff and I lent on food and inconvenience and justified circumstances. I was traveling the world 6 months of the year. I had 100 staff. I just was so hectic. So I gained weight over a convenience factor. And that's, I think, a lot of the people do. And I just didn't want to be that person for my kids. Like, I didn't want to be the guy that made excuses. Because then I'm allowing them to make excuses because they don't listen to what we say. They listen to what we do. So I didn't want to be the guy that blamed my circumstances. I didn't want to be the guy that made excuses for, my poor habits. And, I didn't want to justify things any longer. So I took ownership. My current habits are not giving me the health and the energy and the vitality that I want. Okay. Which is not leading me to be the best version of me for my wife, because I would snap more. I wasn't happy as much as I could be because I do wrap a little bit of an identity with my health as who I am. I just wasn't the best me in any circumstances. So I took ownership right then and there. I said, okay, well, I'm going to take responsibility for my actions because the victor takes responsibility. And no matter what, I'll take responsibility. Like, Liv, I'm not just eating what she's going to give me. I'll eat what we need to eat and she'll support me. And if she isn't supporting me, I'll eat what I need to eat to be healthy, and I'm going to take accountability. And I'm going to learn how to create some form of accountability with myself or get someone else to keep me accountable. When I first started, getting back in shape, I hired a personal trainer 4 days a week, $100 a session. I was like, because I'm paying $400 a week, like I'm going to get my shit together. And I did that for the first couple of months just because I didn't like working out. I didn't like what I look like. I didn't like summer because I took my shirt off. I didn't like anything. So I need to get back into the groove. So I didn't have an online coach. It wasn't around much then. So I had myself a personal trainer. I drove there. I spent time. I did the session, and it got me back into the groove. And I got, essentially the identity shift, and allowed me to then have that accountability. Because if I wasn't there, he'd go, "Where are you, man?" And it got me back into the groove of moving forward. And I switched into the victor mentality. So I had that external accountability as a lever to force me into the victor mindset. And I think this is the biggest thing. So you have to be a victor. You need to own where you are. You need to take responsibility for your future actions. And you need to have some form of accountability, and then you will be the victor. And I think that is the second paradigm shift that we need to have. Have you got anything you want to say about that, mate?
I mean, the way I summarize those two is when you're a victim, life's happening to you, and when you're a victor, life's happening for you. And when I used to teach a lot of this, we used to teach and train people to become life coaches. When we talk about this kind of stuff, it's not saying that, oh yes, all these terrible things, oh, you're trying to say all of these are happening for me. It's like, well, you can look at it that way, but regardless of how you look at it, it's already happened. Regardless of how you look at it, I've chatted to multiple guys who have had injuries, who have broken legs, broken ribs. Had one guy I just spoke to had broke both of his hips in a motorbike accident, and he's trying to get back into it. And it's like, you can look at these things as negatives, or life's happening to me, I'm just a victim in it all. You can look at it that way, but guess what? It's already happened. So what if you chose to look at it in a positive light and say, well, life is happening for me. If this was happening for me, how could I take the best advantage of this? It's this is a bit of a side tangent, but this is what I do, is tangent. I remember seeing a guy on YouTube who he does like YouTube shorts. His daughter unfortunately passed away in a car accident because she hit a guardrail that wasn't secured properly and ended up like sort of going off the edge of the road, and it rolled a bunch of times. And it's terrifying as a father to think about that. And what he had done is taken that, and now he goes around the US and all he does in his life, he evaluates these guardrails. He goes through and he films. He's like, this is incorrectly done, and he reports them. He goes through and he does that, and he's probably saving lives by doing that. But he took what was his pain and turned it into a purpose. And you can do the same thing with all the little, even if it's just little things. Oh, I had the kids. It just happened to me. It's like, no, the kids definitely happened for you. They were happening for you, and you looked at it through that perspective and through that mindset, that window of gain as opposed to the window of loss. Well, then how would you be showing up differently?
I think it's in saying that as life's happening for me. I think when we look at it, every challenge is given to you at the time that you're ready for that challenge. You just have to rise to the occasion. So whether it be small challenges and you have the kids this weekend, my wife's away, or you have the kids and you're a single dad, and it's like, it's hard. Okay, it was hard. This is a challenge. Okay, this is a challenge for me to stay on track. I'm going to rise to the occasion. And I think it's every life's happening for us to challenge us to become that next version, that best version of us. It's like in everything. I'm not going to go into a detail of my life, but I've had a lot of challenges. I tried to have a professional career in rugby league. I've been ninja cockle. I flatlined a bunch of times. I've been engaged multiple times, and my partner's cheated on me. Like I've lost businesses that were doing 8 figures plus. Like I've had a lot of things happen to me, but in reality, they all happened for me. Okay. So if I never, if I went through with the rugby career, I never would have fell in love with helping people become the best version of them. If I didn't have those failed relationships, I never would have met the love of my life and have these 2 amazing kids. If I didn't have a business that wasn't going through, I never would have helped thousands of dads change their life. So if we look at it, sometimes when we're in the moment, we can't see, the forest through the trees. But if we embrace the fact that life is happening for us, then we can go, well, this is a challenge, and it's for me to step up to the plate to become better. And I think that is the biggest understanding, that life is always going to be challenging, but the challenge is there for you. And the challenge is there for you to become the best version of you. You just have to lean into that resistance. I think when we look at it, everything, and I'm not going to go too much because we talked about this in the Habits podcast, or maybe in the first podcast, but everything's about self-confidence and self-doubt. And when we look at mindset, the more self-confidence we have, the more follow-through on doing what we said we're going to do is the key aspect. And the more self-doubt we have, the less likely we are going to follow through. So what we have to understand, that every action that we say we're going to do something and we follow through, that is a vote in self-confidence. And over time, you become a confident person. Or over time, you have someone with high levels of self-doubt and low levels of confidence, and then you go into despair rather than hope. So I think for us, we have to be so crucial about the words that you choose, and be so crucial about what you say you're going to do, because we need to rise to the level of our word. If we're going to say we're going to train every single day for an hour, or we're never going to drink again, we're training every day for an hour, and you don't do that, that's a vote in self-doubt, because you just lied to yourself. We can't lie to ourselves. So just stay, I'm just going to train for 15 minutes a day. Or, hey, I'm just going to start eating vegetables. Or, hey, I'm just going to start staying under my calories. And start small, because an object in motion tends to stay in motion, right? An object at rest tends to stay at rest. And if we look at it, we can't optimize something that's not in motion. Okay. If something is not in motion, we can't optimize it, and we can't make it keep pushing it outside our comfort zone. So the biggest thing I can say is, for mindset factors, start small, win daily, then keep raising the floor, as you said last week, which allows us to build hope, allows us to build self-confidence. And a confident person is unstoppable. I think like confidence is key when we're trying to acquire any type of skill. And if we feel like we have this low level of confidence, that's when we discard it. It's like, I can't do this. I'm despair. I'm going to be fat forever.
100%. I talked about this today about with one of the clients around the competence confidence loop. The more confident you get, the better you get at it. The better you get at it, the more confident you are. But it starts with your emotional state. If you can get yourself into the right emotional state when you're looking to start a program, go to the gym, make a choice around your food, whatever it is. If you can focus on your state, and as Trav said, there's a couple of things that lean into that. One of them is language, being very deliberate with the words that you use and the goals that you set yourself, because they're either going to move you towards what you want or away from what you want. And if you keep setting these unrealistic goals, you learn to never trust yourself again. You learn to doubt yourself constantly, because this is the reason why mantras don't really work. If you're looking in the mirror like, I am beautiful and strong and powerful and I am an amazing person, blah, blah, blah. If you don't actually believe that, you've just got these it's like a little ping pong match against a wall. Every time you say it, it's like, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not. Like you've got that mental, and it's self-reinforcing that. So you've got to start and appreciate where you're at. Say, yes, this is where I'm at right now, and this is what I'm going to become. This is what I'm going to work towards. This is who I am going to be. And then you could develop that competence in being that person over time by, as Travis said, making those choices, choosing the vote for self-confidence as opposed to the vote for self-doubt. There's so much that we can talk about in terms of mindset and mentality, but the big one for me is emotion. So the language that you use to describe either yourself or the situation, right? Is going to determine whether you're a victim or a victor. If you're using victim-based language or victor-based language, and if you're using empowering language, that's really accurate and, focused on the now as opposed to, oh, nah, it's all fucked. It's like, no, hold on. Let's get a little bit more specific. So using language, using your physiology, so actually using your body. If you're making decisions from a place where you're hunched over and your head's down and you feel depressed, you're like, oh, no, I probably won't go to the gym now. But if you stand up and you have your chest proud and you like you've got a bit more energy in your body, you move up, you do 10 jumping jacks, right? Don't tell me that you don't stand up right now. If you don't drive, if you're driving, don't do it. But if you stand up right now and do 10 jumping jacks, right? Or you do 10 push-ups and then you get back up and you don't feel at least like 5% better, and you have a slightly better emotional state, then you're fucking lying to me, right? Because moving your body, getting your physiology going, that's what's going to drive your emotional state. It's the easiest thing we can control. And then finally, we look at focus. So where focus goes, energy flows and results show. So if you can determine where your focus is, and my big one is what you can do versus what you can't do. That's the big one for me. You either focus on what you can do and what you are able to do, right? This is a great question that I love. What can I do with what I've got in this moment now? What that does is that focuses the attention on, well, what are the things I can do as opposed to what I can't do? What are the things that I can do? What are the things I have and the resources I've got available? Oh, I don't have a gym membership. I don't have this. I don't have a barbell. I don't have whatever. It's like, cool. Well, you got a physical body, right? Most places have those little park gyms you can go to. You've got, somewhere with monkey bars, you can do something, right? We've got home workouts, gyms, all that kind of stuff. Calisthenics is a huge thing. Home workouts, squats, all of that kind of stuff. You're focusing on what you have as opposed to what you don't have. And you're focusing on the moment as opposed to focusing on the past, focusing on the future. So if you can keep your focus in those three places, what can I do with what I've got in this moment now? You're going to make consecutively better and better and better choices. And you're going to be in a better emotional state because you're not like, oh, but, Sharon left me 10 years ago. All right, great. Fucking what are you going to do about it? Nothing. It's 10 years ago. She's gone. Yeah. She's long gone, right? You have no idea where she is. Stop stalking her on Facebook. You don't need to know where she is. So then you say, oh, well, what can I do with what I've got? Not pine about the past, not have anxiety about the future, but say, well, what can I do in this moment? Because there's only so much that you can do. Like Travis was saying, we have limited resources available to us. We all have different constraints. We all have different challenges that are going on. But instead of throwing it all out, say, well, no, what can I do with what I've got?
I think so, mate. And, for me, when we're looking at the act of being resourceful, I was
Mm,
coaching about 1,000 members online during the midst of COVID in Melbourne lockdowns. And, we created workouts with a bag and, some sandbags in them, or like filled it up with some sandbags, or got $10 lime sand and put it in the bag. So we pack workouts, lunges, squats, push-ups, rows. And it's like, that's the art of being resourceful, right? I
mm,
think it's never, I think we always find our limiting beliefs based on what we believe our resources are, when if we can create resourcefulness, we can actually achieve the results. I can't afford healthy food. You can, right? You can eat healthy for like $3 to $4 per meal. Like it doesn't have to be anything elaborate and crazy. It might not taste as amazing. It probably could taste quite amazing with some great spices, but with this, you just have to be more resourceful. And I think that is the biggest thing that we
mm,
look at. All or nothing mindset. I think this is a big thing that happens, and why people not only plateau, they also go backwards, because that gives
mm,
them the ability to give up. And we see these people going so well for a period of time, they're losing weight, and then they get stuck in this cycle of sometimes it's like a binge restrict cycle, which allows them just to plateau with their weight. And then if they keep up that cycle for long enough, they just give up altogether, or they're in an all or nothing mindset from the get-go. I think we all know the same story, right? Like, we go so well Monday to Thursday, and, all of a sudden, we're following our nutrition, we're training, we're in that sort of calorie deficit. To lose weight, you have to be in a calorie deficit. Then all of a sudden, we start to lose that weight, and Thursday rolls around and you stuff up, and you had, a couple of extra beers, or you had the muffin at the office, or whatever it is, and we mentally get down on ourselves. We tell ourselves, again, the power of language, you can't stick to a diet, you can never follow through. And we say, what's wrong with you? Dude, nothing's wrong with you. It's a fucking muffin. All right. So when we look at it, a negative dialogue goes so high, and we go into a downward spiral with our frequency, or our state that Jay said before. And then when we're in that bad state, we start to make, again, bad choices. So we're like, oh, you've screwed up now. You may as well keep eating. You've already screwed up. And then we go home, we crack open more beers, we have a bottle of wine, we order pizza because, we've already stuffed up, so we may as well. And then you feel so crap the next day, you press snooze, okay, because you had bad sleep. And then you felt crap, because you missed the gym, and you get down yourself again. And then it's the next 3 days of excess calorie consumption and not much movement. Okay. And then Monday roll, and we tell ourselves, oh, it's okay, I'll start again on Monday. We literally justify. We get, again, victim. I'll start again on Monday. And this is the all or nothing mindset. And people get in this cycle. And then they're also like, why aren't I getting results? I was so good Monday to Thursday. And it's like, yeah, well, Friday to Sunday, you're a complete arsehole to yourself. That's why. I think when we look at this, like, it's not about being, 100% of the time. It's at least, but it's being 90%. 100% of the time. That's what gets you the results. So the muffin on Thursday wasn't going to derail you. And even if you had a muffin on Saturday and Sunday, it's not going to derail you. But the pizza, the ice cream, the chocolate, the 7 extra beers on Friday night, the whiskey, everything else, that derails you. Okay, that
mm,
pushed you into a calorie surplus, made you feel like crap, and you were trying to justify it to yourself. So we need to get out of an all or nothing mindset. And we talked about this story. It's like, literally, it's the same. If you're going towards a destination and having the muffin, you're driving in your car, having the muffin is like a puncture in a tire. You punctured one tire. Okay, you just replace the tire, you get back on track. Going into the next 3 days of this consuming, alcohol and food is literally like getting out and puncturing the other 3 tires, because, hey, I stuffed up one tire, I may as well stuff up all 4 of them now. It's like,
just
that is
yeet
an
the
all or
car off the
nothing
cliff.
mindset. Yeah, literally drive it off screw it, I'll start again on Monday. It's like, no, that is the worst behavior, and we can't, and people get into a routine of an all or nothing mindset. So if you are feeling this, it's like, what we need to do is we need to go, we never shame. Okay. So it's understand. So we go into the spiral of shame. So we never shame. We understand it's a game. So it's like, that's what the mentality is like. We never shame. We must understand it's a game. Say that to yourself. We never shame. We understand it's a game. And then all of a sudden we move into a win or learn mentality. if I'm trying to score points, and we talked about this the other day, and a point is for nutrition, a point is for training, and a point is for my steps, right? And I have the ability to score 3 points a day, and I just stuffed up my nutrition. Hey, I can still score 2 points. Hey, 2 points is better, isn't as good as 3, but I still scored 2 points. And then if I go into it's a game and I never shame, I never miss 2 days in a row, going back into the habits podcast last week, and it's going into a win or learn mentality. Okay. So going win or learn, right? So I didn't win my nutrition today. What can I learn from this so I can make sure that I win tomorrow? So all or nothing mindset, we scrap it. We make sure it's a game, not a shame, and we go into a win or learn mentality, and we gamify it, scoring points. We have the ability to score 21 points a week, but sometimes we might score 18. Sometimes we might score 10. We might even start knowing we can score 3 points a day, but for the next 7 days, my goal is to score 7 points. I'm going to win something every day. And again, an object in motion tends to stay in motion, and we can optimize to start you getting more points on the board the week after. And we start to get a winning streak, and then we start to feel like we're getting progress and momentum.
Yeah. And when you start to get off track, you'll notice as you do this more and more and more that for you're going to want to get back on track. As Trav's saying, an object in motion stays in motion. You have one big night and then you're like, oh, fuck yeah, you know what? I really need to go to the gym tomorrow. I'm really like, as opposed to it being like, oh, screw it. I'm just not going to do anything now. I'm going to have a whole weekend off. You're like, oh yeah, no, that was a big night. Yeah, I really need to make sure I get a walk. Like I might not be able to go to the gym, but I'll go for a walk tomorrow until my head gets better, right? I'm really going to make sure I get my salads in, make sure I get my protein in, make sure I keep it nice and clean, because that's going to be who you are. It's like your natural steer back on track is going to start to become going to the gym. It's going to start to become going for walks, eating the right food, drinking plenty of water, doing all the stuff that we know is important for us to do, as opposed to writing it off. It's like, no, now it's my reason to get back into the rhythm of it because I had that big night and I know what that big night means. Oh, it's just one night. It doesn't matter. But, you know, now I'm really motivated to get back into it. Like I take 2 or 3 days off the gym. I'm antsy. I'm itching to get back into it. I'm not a good person if I haven't been to the gym for 3 days. Like it's my wife insists by the end of the day that I go. So that's the trick. Just start being an asshole to your wife until she's like, you know what, you need to go to the gym. All right, honey. All right, I'll go get some protein bars on my way home. But I was going to say that all or nothing mentality tends to come back to a fear of failure. It's like, if I can't do everything all at once, then I might fail. If I fail, then I'm going to judge myself and feel bad about it. So make sure that when you're doing this, failure isn't missing a day. Failure isn't imperfectly executing the perfect plan, right? Failure is giving up. Failure is chucking the car off the cliff because the tire got punctured.
Mate, all it is like a mistake, right? So we expand the gap, we break that word up into a mistake. It was just a mistake. You took a shot and you missed today. It doesn't mean we don't miss tomorrow. We never miss 2 days in a row. We get back on track. And I think if we can look at that and having that never miss 2 days in a row mentality, it was just a mistake on today. We learn from it and we get back on track. And I think in saying that, man, like it is interesting that if you are a better person when you train, you know, I know we need supportive partners, you know, sometimes it's like, but Liv knows for me that I'm better as a human being when I train. So if I haven't got it in because something's happened with my schedule and like she's got, you know, she does a million things. She's like, no, you go train. Like, cause she knows I'm better for me. I'm better for her. I'm better for the kids. And it doesn't mean like I rely on training to be the best version of me. It's not like a crutch, but she knows it's so important in my life that she supports me in making sure that I get that done. I think that's a big thing. There's a quote that I love that was from Viktor Frankl, and he's like, everything can be taken away from a man but one thing, and that's the last of the human freedoms, which is to choose one's own way in any given set of circumstances, which essentially is to choose one's attitude in any given circumstances, to choose one's own way. So what that means is, you know, we're going back to that victor or victim mindset. It's like anything can happen to you. You have the power of choice. And I think that's the biggest thing with mindset. It's the power of choice. You are choosing to eat the extra food or choosing not to. Every single thing is a choice. You are choosing to be overweight or you're choosing not to. Okay. I think it's like, if we just have that ability to expand the gap between the negative stimulus and the response, so we take a breath, we expand the gap, we choose the best attitude that will allow us to choose better actions. So we just need to go, what's things that derail my state, my energy. Okay. I identify them, aware. Okay. When they happen, we talked about this in the habits last week, expand the gap, stimulus and response, choose a better emotion. Okay. People aren't doing things to you. They're doing things for you. And then we go, okay, what's the best action I can do right now that will give me a better emotion that will give me a better action? I think that's so crucial. And I think when we're looking at, we were talking about the power of thoughts before. I think there was a couple of studies around how many thoughts people have in a day. Some people say like 15,000. Some people have, say there's 60,000 thoughts. But if we go with the 60,000 thoughts a day, the average person has, and 45,000 thoughts are the same as the day before. That's essentially what happens. And the average person has 80% of those thoughts as negative. Like, it's not... I can understand how someone can get into a bit of a defeatist mindset if this is them. If they're allowing the victim to overtake their life and they're having, 45,000 thoughts day after day, which are negative because we're feeding the victim voice on our shoulder. You can't lose weight. You can't stick to a diet. Have the extra burger. Have the beer. It's like if we need the voice we listen to most is the one that wins, right? They become louder. And the victor becomes quieter and quieter until they completely give up. And that's when we have despair. So when we look at this, like, you need to slowly win. And the more you listen to the guy, okay, you said you're going to do 3 kilometers walk today. Okay, you did it. And I think what we need to do is we need to then, there's a great thing I saw. It's like when you say you're going to do something and then you actually follow through, you say to yourself, just like me. It's like, okay, I'm going to do a 3 kilometer run today. And it's like, you do the 3 kilometer day. It's like 3 kilometer day run today, just like me. You're reaffirming the fact in your subconscious that it's just like me is someone who follows through what they said they're going to do and do the 3 kilometers. And then dopamine goes into your body. It's like, just like me, someone who does that. I follow through with what Jason, I do.
Classic trap.
So, exactly. And if we do that, we're affirming to our subconscious mind that it's just like me, someone who follows through with their word and, get that sort of dopamine rush. We tick the box, which allows us to go through the task checklist that we talked about last week. And then we're slowly listening to the voice a bit more, just like me, someone who eats vegetables, just like me, someone who hits their calories, just like me, someone who goes to the gym. And then the voice that is the best version of you gets louder and gets louder and gets louder. And that little bitch version of you who tells you to lay on the couch because you're tired or have the extra beers because you need them because it was a hard week, they tend to just piss off. They stop talking, right? It doesn't mean they're not there. You can't hear them as much anymore. They're literally like white noise, right? You can't even hear what they're saying because you were so in tune to listening to the best version of you who's like, you got this, just like me. This is what we do. And I think that is just a crucial thing for us to have. Do you have any thoughts about people having limiting beliefs with their ability to stay forward and focus with their habits and mindset?
When we think about limiting beliefs, we know that they come from essentially from when we're like between 0 and 7 is when we tend to build these limiting beliefs that we tend to have. And what they are is they're reinforced with evidence over time. And the problem is that most people look for evidence to reinforce what they already believe, as opposed to entertaining some opposing views, which is why, we like social media websites that are echo chambers. We like to see the opinions that we agree with. And, whenever we see, that's that fixed mindset. Whenever we see something different or confrontational or that offers a different viewpoint, we take it as a criticism and affront. Like, oh shit, I don't want to deal with that. No, that person's wrong. You just shut them down. Same thing with our limiting beliefs. We all have that mindset that the things that we believe to be true are true. Might be the way that we were raised, this is the best way. You've got to raise your kids in this particular way with this particular style because that's what happened for me and I loved my childhood. Or you might have been bullied when you were younger and, you might be like, oh, well, I'll never amount to anything. And you might have that limiting belief that's going on in your head. So it's questioning those things that you take to be true, that you assume to be true, which are these limiting beliefs. It might be that you can never create the body transformation because you've tried and failed a bunch of times, or you've tried and you've gotten the result and then you've gone backwards, right? That's what a lot of people do with fitness. They have a limiting belief around the fact that they're not able to achieve the transformation in the first place. I knew a guy who never thought he could never get abs because he was Indian. He'd never seen an Indian guy with abs before. right? So he took a picture of an Indian guy. He downloaded one that like a guy with his skin tone, downloaded it from Google, put his face on top of it and put it on his wall so that he could be like, yep, no, I can see it now. I can picture it. Now I've got rid of that limiting belief that I could never have that, or someone, that has my color skin would never have abs because I never see it in any media. So you've got to take some space, as we've talked about many times, take some space and take stock and be willing to challenge those thoughts that come up, because all a belief is a thought that's been given evidence and that you've looked for evidence for. And you're either looking for evidence to support it or you're looking for evidence to take it away. And it might take time. You might chop out one leg and then it's a table that's still got three. It's a bit rickety, but it's still there. You need to keep kicking those legs out from that table. And you can only do that by looking for evidence to the contrary of the beliefs that you've held. But your brain doesn't want you to do that. Your brain wants you to reaffirm things are the same. This is the way that life is. Like there's a psychological phenomenon known as a scotoma, which is a mental blind spot. If you tell yourself, and you probably tell your wife, and you tell yourself, I don't know where the Vegemite is, right? I don't know where it is in the cupboard. You've already decided. Your brain has already told you, like she's like, oh, can you grab me the Vegemite? You've already mentally gone, oh man, that cupboard's a mess. I don't fucking know where the Vegemite is. I have no clue. You've already mentally told yourself, when you go to look for it, this is why it gets called a man look. You go to look for it, your brain will block it out in order to make you not wrong. Because you've mentally told yourself, I don't know where the Vegemite is. So you've already gone in defeatist, like, oh, I don't know why she's asking me. Yep, it's not here. It's not here. And then she'll reach out and it looks like she pulls it from thin air, but it's right in front of your face because you already convinced yourself, or like knowing that your my keys aren't in that spot. So you'll look for them, but no, they're not in that spot. You've already mentally told yourself they're not there. You've got to start pausing and looking for evidence to support the opposite. So if you're telling yourself, I can't make this transformation, it's like, but you know what? Actually, I did lose 14 kilos. I'll always bring this back. I actually did lose 14 kilos before. Yeah, I gained it back, but I've done it before. So, what differently do I need to do in order to keep it? So hang on, maybe I can make this work. Maybe I can actually do this because I have done it before. So you need to consistently look for evidence to support. And if you don't have that capacity, you need an outside perspective. You need someone outside of yourself who can bring attention to it and say, hey, hang on, you're doing this. What about this time? What about this time? What about this time? Because mentally we'll block it. Oh yeah, I forgot about all those times I did those things really well and I achieved the goal, because you're stuck in the limiting belief and all the evidence the little pile of evidence, the gold coins you've accumulated. Oh yes, this is my limiting belief, my precious, right? We need to start to smash that down, but we need evidence to the contrary to make that work. So in order to dismantle that belief, we need to, number one, realize that we were probably a young kid when we first formed it and we weren't very rational, right? We all have kids. We understand they're not very rational at times. But beyond that, we need to start looking for evidence to affirm the opposite and say, no, I can do this. Here's the evidence why. Here's the logic. Here's the reason behind it. And if you can't do it, you need someone else to do it for you and to bring it to your attention.
And what about, mate, that was a fantastic explanation. What about the limiting beliefs that we're imposing on our children? I think that's the big thing we need to think about. If we are overweight and we're making excuses, justifications, I can't have a family and have a job that's full-time and focus on my weight, like it doesn't matter. And then they think, okay, well, it doesn't matter if you need to be healthy. Or it's like, I can't stick to a diet, it's too hard. Then we're telling them essentially, because they do listen to you, they're around their house all the time. They'll repeat everything you say all the time. So if we look at it and we're saying, I can't stick to a diet, they'll think, okay, you can't stick to diets. And it's like, I can't lose weight. Okay, people can't lose weight. Our family is just genetically not the best. Okay, our family is genetically not the best. All of a sudden, you're imprinting these limiting beliefs on your children who they have to try and break. So rather than them having to try and break these limiting beliefs themselves, how about you break the limiting beliefs so you don't impose them on your children, so they have to then try and break the cycle before it gets to their kids. And I think that is one of the biggest key reasons with the limiting beliefs. We don't want to put our shit on our kids because we constantly do. And we need to stop it, because then they have to eventually deal with it, or they don't, and they become overweight and they have health problems and they don't live the life that they should live because you enforce your limiting beliefs on them.
If you think about that 0 to 7, a child is like a sponge. You swear around them and you figure out how quickly they retain information, right? And they never forget it, and they bring it up at dinner parties. But exactly as Charles was saying, if you aren't willing to put in that work now and to make those changes, and you scroll through reels and TikTok and all that kind of stuff, you'll find enough people who get so, oh, I can't say this word around my kid, and we don't say you can't have this. We say sometimes this is a sometimes food, and then we don't want to develop all these things. It's like, these things will be figured out over time. You don't want to get too anal into the details about it, but you do want to have a generally healthy relationship with food. Daddy's stressed. Now he's going to have a drink. You need a drink when you're stressed. Mum's stressed. She's going to go eat a bag of chips. When you're stressed, it's okay for you to eat food. I'm never going to listen to a parent who's telling me eat your vegetables, but they're not eating them themselves. Go outside and play. You need to go outside and play. This is where there's those teenage years, they start to develop a little bit more of a FU attitude, because it's like, well, why am I going to listen to you when you're not doing what you telling me to do? Right? Oh, I'll do it because I'm your parent and I say so. It's like, don't tell me to go run around and play outside and do all this sport. You're sitting on the couch. Why would I listen to you? That's where that friction starts to come into it. So you want to live the best example that you can, but know that also you're human.
Yes.
Right? You're not going to do everything perfectly. You're not going to be the perfect everything in life. And the more your kids can see that, yes, look, I never claimed to be perfect. I never claimed to know everything. They'll think that early on, but you know what? I'm just another human being doing the best job that I can. And sometimes we make mistakes, and that's okay. And that's the kind of stuff you want to pass on to your kids. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you don't let them stop you, as long as you don't let them slow you down, and you use it as a learning opportunity. If that's the mentality you want your kids to have, and I've seen this time and time again, people won't do it for themselves. They'll do it for their kids. So I don't care if I don't have enough time to go to the gym for myself. You've got enough time to go to the gym and be the best version of yourself for your kid, because it becomes about them and it stops being about you. And that's the biggest motivator that anyone can ever have, is I'm doing it for me, for them.
Mate, 100%. I think one of the last things I want to talk about is a bit more of like emotional stamina and our ability to increase our emotional stamina as a human being. And if we have the ability to take punches and become anti-fragile, it's an anti-fragile mindset, right? So they think fragile, I get a knock, there's an external stimulus coming to me, and if something is fragile, we get hit, we break, right? And when we look at we break as far as external stimulus, we break, meaning we fall off our diet and we, essentially just, don't follow through, and we go into that all or nothing mindset. When we look at there's fragile, there's robust or resilient. So it's like, okay, I get a knock and I can withstand the knock, right? And I just every single week this same knock happens to us. Yeah, you can be resilient for so long or robust for so long. Then there's anti-fragile. Anti-fragile, not only when they get the knock, they can be robust and resilient, but they become stronger. And we have to adopt an anti-fragile mindset where it's like we become stronger because we go, okay, I got this knock. This external stimulus came at me because of this situation. I'm going to learn from this situation so it doesn't happen again, and I don't have to keep taking the knocks every single week. I think that is probably one of the biggest things that we look at. It's like, become anti-fragile. Become the most anti-fragile person you can. And that is the person who not only gets results, but they keep results for the rest of their life. I take knocks, I win, I learn, I become stronger. Every obstacle makes me stronger. I think if you can have that, you'll win. And that allows us to increase our ability to have a higher amounts of emotional stamina. We don't go up and down and up and down. We're frustrated, we're happy. It's like, no, like we're an even keel, right? We're stoic. we just hold our emotion and we don't allow things to affect us. When something starts to affect us, we take a moment, deep breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. That's what's box breathing. You do box breathing for a minute and you move forward. Okay. And that is it. And we just stay with the emotion that we choose, not the something that is our emotion is not impacted by an external stimulus. And when we can control our emotions and have this emotional stamina that is anti-fragile, okay, instead of fragile or resilient, we get knocked and we, decrease our emotions to a lesser version of us. We become even happier or become even stronger with our emotional stamina. Then we can move forward. And I think, a good way that we look at increasing our emotional stamina is through a power of gratitude. I love gratitude. I love to deploy it in the mornings and night times. I say most people should do it. And in the mornings, it could be writing down 3 things that you're grateful for, or you could also send out 3 gratitude texts or emails to people in your life and say, hey, I'm grateful that you're in my life because of X, Y, and Z. And, some people who I've told to do this, they started to do it, and all of a sudden they get texts back through the day. And it's like, dude, like, I haven't talked to you in ages. Like, you're we start getting positive messages back. And that makes us feel even better. So not only do we feel good by giving gratitude, then we start getting gratitude back. We feel better from giving it, but it still sometimes is good to get it back as well. But we can either write down the 3 things you're grateful for in the morning or send out 3 gratitude texts every single morning. For the rest of your life. That's just who you are, and that's what you do. That is a habit you deploy. And then at nighttime, our bookends, AM and PM, at nighttime, I sit down and talk to Liv. It's like, what's 3 things that you're grateful for that happened today? Right. So we're bookending our days with gratitude. She tells me the 3 grateful things she had. I tell her my 3 things. And what we're doing is we're bookending our days with gratitude. So I am seeing more grateful things or things that I'm grateful for throughout the day because I know I'm going to share them with Liv. And then, as you said before, we start to get confirmation bias. If we wake up in the morning and we're like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to get out of bed. I hate my job. I don't want to go to the gym. Snooze 53 times. Oh, I get to the gym. You start complaining. You get to work. You get home. How's your day? Oh, it was a long day today. And you start complaining about your day. Like, if we're just bookending our days with utter shit complaints, of course you're going to see confirmation bias of how you can't stick to your diet and do training because the mental space that is consuming you is horrendous. But if we start the day, I was like, make today great. It's like, I'm smiling, right? I literally start every day. I'm smiling because I'm awake, mate. Like, I get to spend another day as me on this planet and I'm alive, right? Because I wasn't promised to wake up again. So like, I'm happy because I'm up, I'm awake, I'm alive, I'm me. And then from there, like, I give myself a high five in the mirror, Mel Robbins style, because when you smile and literally, dude, like anyone out there right now, try and frown and give a high five. You literally can't do it. Like, you are pre-programmed to smile and high five. That is who we are as human beings. So if you high five yourself in the mirror, you're smiling. All of a sudden, you've got a smile on your face. You gave yourself a high five and you're like, dude, you're crazy. And it's like, yeah, but I'm crazy and I feel great. So maybe a little crazy is good. So give yourself a high five in the mirror and then you just go and attack your day. So all of a sudden you're happy, you smile, you high five yourself, you start moving forward, you send out 3 gratitude texts, you start going through your day, you're grateful at the night. And then with this, we have our reticular activating system kicking in for us. And we start to get confirmation bias of all the great things that are happening in the world, rather than seeing all the shit and the confirmation bias around that and how, people are crap and all the rest of it and your boss is an asshole and people drive too slow or they drive too fast. Literally, people will complain it's too hot or it's too cold. They'll complain about anything and everything. Okay, that's okay. That's not you. Right? You can look for the good in everything. It's raining today. Well, we do need rain for the crops. It's sunny today. Well, that's really good. I love the sun. It's like you can find the silver lining in every single thing. And if we start to bookend our days, it's just like if you've ever bought a new car, okay? All of a sudden, you see that car everywhere because it has a heightened awareness of the car you're driving. And all of a sudden, you're like, hey, how come there's so many cars just like mine out on the road? Or I talk to the girls about, they go to the races, right? They buy this dress and they'll be at the races, there'll be like 2,000 people at the horse races. And all of a sudden they can pinpoint through 2,000 people, the one female who's wearing the exact same dress as them. They literally can see it. And it's like, because they have a heightened awareness of the dress they're wearing. Okay. So they can see it. And even though no one else can. So if we look at this, if we are putting the heightened awareness on gratitude, we start to see it more because our brain starts to look for it. And if we start to see more grateful things, we start to act more grateful. We stay at a higher frequency for a longer period of time. We have a higher amount of emotional stamina. Our state is up there. And if we have a high frequency state, we have high frequency stories. If we have high frequency stories, which is, I can do this just like me, smash out my thing, like I'm unstoppable because I am the person who does what I said I'm going to do. And even when I don't want to feel like it, I still follow through just like me. then that's the person who deploys the strategy correctly. And that's the person who tells themself the story when they fall on their face. It's like, hey, that was pretty cool. Learned a lesson. Not going to do that again. And they keep moving forward, deploying the strategy. And I think that is the biggest thing that I would like to say to wrap up this podcast is start deploying gratitude, because it does affect so much of your life.
Yeah. You can't feel fear and gratitude at the same time. You can't feel any negative emotion and gratitude at the same time.
You're going to go and high five yourself in the mirror and see if you smile after this podcast, aren't you?
I'm already smiling at the thought of it, so don't need to do it. I'm mentally doing it, and it's got me there.
It's so crazy, dude. It's so crazy. But it's funny, as a coach for like the last 20 years, also teaching people how to high five, because we high five at the end of every training session with the gyms and all the rest of it. And it's like, people look at the hand when they high five. If to never miss a high five, you never look at the hand, you look at the elbow, and the hand follows through. Just for anyone out there who wants to do a perfect high five, you always look at the elbow when you're high fiving someone, that other person's elbow, and you always connect their hand on point. So I think, as a side note, if you want a perfect high five, watch the elbow, not the hand. Other than that, guys, that is today's some deep stuff right there. Hey, everyone wants to know how to do a good high five. That is today's podcast on mindset, guys. Go to fit-dad.club if you want to change your life with us. You want to drop 10 to 20 kilos in the next 16 weeks. That's what we do. We help you become the best version of you. And that's it at the end of the day. And the best version of you is healthy. Yes, best version of you has an abundance of energy. The best version of you feels unstoppable. The best version of you, when you fall on your face, you get back up, you learn something, you keep moving forward. And that's what we help you do. We give you the tools, the accountability, the education, and the common humanity of guys who are dads just like you, who are crushing at life. And that's what the Fit Dad Club is. So go to fit-dad.club. Get in there, schedule an appointment. Let's have a chat of what's holding you back and help unlock those obstacles so you can feel bulletproof and be the best version of yourself. But that's it for me today, mate. Thank you again for the podcast, Jace.
No worries, mate. Don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and review as well. Let us know. It helps us reach more dads, which is what we're really trying to do. And we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers, guys. Peace out.